In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, we would like to welcome the speakers to this press conference of the National Medical Task Force for Combating Coronavirus. His Excellency Dr. Walid Al-Mana, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Health, Ms. Iman Al-Dosari, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Manaf Al-Qahtani, Infectious Disease Consultant at the BDF Hospital, and Dr. Jamila Salman, Infectious and Internal Disease Consultant at Salmania Medical Complex. And we would like to note that this press conference is going live on TV and on the YouTube channel in 5 different languages, and we also have the journalists and reporters joining us remotely. Now, we begin with Dr. Walid Al-Mana, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Health. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to the Lord who has everything held within his knowledge. Praise be to him for his countless blessings and grace, and praise be to the Prophet. We meet with you in this press conference out of our concern to update you on the most recent updates in a transparent manner and to get you to the point as you are part of our team Bahrain. And I'd like to confirm to you that what we're facing today, represented in the increase of the active cases, requires everyone to implement all the precautionary measures seriously in order to reduce them and go back to the safe rates. Well, we have 3 main sections in this press conference. First, we're going to review a number of decisions. Second, we're going to correct some of the false allegations and misinformation that we have identified. Third, we're going to have important messages for everyone to combat this virus. And today we're going to review a number of decisions that are important, which will contribute to the reduction of the active cases, and we hope everyone to commit to implement them. And also, Ms. Iman Al-Dosari, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Industry, the decisions related to the trade sector. Well, based on the recommendations of the National Medical Task Force, a number of decisions have been decided and made in order to combat this virus, and they are as follows: to increase the capacities of the vaccinations to be 31,000 vaccines distributed among 31st centers, to use the rapid PCR test and to allow the private sector to import the PCR and to reduce the price from 3 dinars to 2 dinars for the pharmacies, and to allow the major companies to buy the PCR test from the government storage to BD only, and to allow the government and main sectors, which are not going to be closed periodically, and to update the protocols for dealing with active cases and contacts as follows: to update the protocol related to active cases, and they should implement the self-isolation as soon as they discover the case and to implement the isolation instructions, and they do not need to go to the isolation treatment centers unless they have severe symptoms or chronic diseases which requires the review of the medical sector. And those will have the activation for Be Aware before, without the need to go to the treatment centers. And those adults aged 50 and over, and they will be contacted by the Ministry of Health. Also to update the protocol for contacts, and they will implement the self-isolation once they discover their contact with an active case. And this will be activated immediately through Be Aware app. And those contacts aged 50 and over will be registered from the beginning and the end of the quarantine. And those contacts who do not experience any symptoms, who are 50, 49 or less, they will just immediately implement the quarantine, and they will conduct the test again on the 10th day. And those contacts identified by the ministry will have the option to conduct the test either in private hospitals, which will be announced later. Also, to expand the capacity for the medium and critical cases, and also to give the priority for citizens to be employed, and also to provide allowance for those working in the private sector. To transfer the duty of dealing with the critical cases to private sector as well. And those updates based on the statistics, which are very accurate because the majority of the contacts and the cases, they do not require the treatment nor the follow-up. And we confirm that the capacity for treatment and is available and is above the current situation. But the updates was in order to facilitate for the contacts and the active cases, and to direct the medical team to those cases which require follow-up. On the other hand, and based on the updates, and in order to reduce the active cases, it has been announced, like starting from 12 p.m. tonight of 27th of May up to Thursday, 10th of June 2021, at 12 o'clock midnight, the following: closure of private gyms and halls and swimming pools, beaches and recreational games. Also, to stop the attendance of audience for the sports activities, and to stop the activities in houses, and to implement the work from home for all government entities by 70%. Also, to suspend the attendance of learning at schools, higher educational, kindergarten, and this will be limited only, the attendance will be limited only for conducting exams, and to conduct the same instructions for arrivals to Bahrain. Let me assure you that all of you citizens and residents are part of Bahrain team. And so let's work together and collaborate at this exceptional situation in order to implement fully the guidelines in order to achieve the goals. Just my last word before I leave the floor to Ms. Iman Dusari, that I hope that through this press conference, we want to tell you, with being careful. We have to be positive in thinking as well. And let's have hope that we will be recovered soon. What we have seen from you of trust, appreciation for the team, you are to deserve appreciation from the team. The national team, let me assure you, we have great spirits and determination from the beginning. And hopefully we're going to continue this journey with you until we combat this pandemic very soon and things will go back to normal life. We praise God and we pray that He will protect Bahrain's citizens and residents, and we will overcome this challenge as usual. Now I'll leave the floor to Ms. Iman Al-Dosari, Undersecretary of the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, to address the decisions related to trade. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I'd like to welcome you to talk about the decisions issued by the National Medical Task Force based on the announcement of the Dr. Walid Al-Mana. Let's review now the most important decisions related to trade and to clarify them. All malls and industrial and commercial establishments will be closed and their activities will be limited only to delivery, and starting from Thursday, today, 27th of May 2021, until Thursday, 10th of June 2021 at 12 p.m. Also, the closure of cinema and their related halls, and to suspend all activities and conferences, and to closure of barbers and salons, with the exception of the following: hypermarkets, supermarkets, cold stores, grocery shops, fishing shops, bakery, manual and automatic, gas stations, private hospitals, with the exception of some health services that will have a circular issued by NIHRA, banks and ATMs, administrative offices for companies which are not related directly to customers, the fields of importing and exporting, instruction and maintenance sector, and factories, telecom companies, pharmacies, and we confirm that those shops and establishments should fully comply with the guidelines and instructions in order to reduce the COVID-19. Now I'll leave the floor to Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Manaf Al-Qahtani, Infectious Disease Consultant at the BDF Hospital and member of the National Medical Task Force for combating coronavirus. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, good afternoon, everyone. I think our press conference today has proven that Team Bahrain is exceptional in terms of communicating with people. And thank you, Dr. Walid Al-Mana. He explained in details the procedures in order to cope with the capacities, and also Ms. Iman Al-Dosari, she talked about the decisions related to trading. And also Dr. Jamila Salman is going to deliver important messages. As for my role today, I'm going to answer all the questions that constituted false allegations recently. And in our attempt to combat COVID-19, and we have selected them based on what we have identified on social media, and our role as a medical team, a national team, we're going to provide you with accurate and clear details. And we thank the media team for over 2 years. They've been implementing and organizing this press conference, so we say thank you to them. Well, the first question that would usually raised recently, so is non-closure, the early non-closure of ports and airports was the main reason for the increase in Bahrain? Well, we had for 2 years a very specialized team from February 2020 up to now, identifying all the cases internally and externally. And we talked, even Dr. Walid Al-Mana, we talked many times that the closure plan is always on the table once we had the chance to implement it. But the daily figures show that the increase in the active cases because of internally, not from outside Bahrain. And all of you can go and review the numbers. Number 2, Bahrain is among the top countries taking the vaccines, but the still active cases are increasing. Is it because Sinopharm vaccine is limited in efficacy? Well, let me remind you of 4 things. Bahrain is among the top countries to conduct clinical trials since August last year up to October, and we've got over 7,000 volunteers in a very limited period of time. And Bahrain was among the top countries also that exposed to the volunteers and provided them with real vaccines before other countries which participated in the clinical trials. And Bahrain provided 4 different types of vaccines, and more importantly, optional. We did not prefer a vaccine over another. We provided them optional, and everyone had the option to choose one of them. Also, Bahrain has announced the booster shots, which I'm going to talk in details, but those booster shots was among the plans conducted locally in Bahrain, and also related to some studies conducted outside, like the one in the UK for 6 weeks. 5, Bahrain has conducted many studies to compare the vaccines locally in order to measure the efficacy of these vaccines in the Kingdom of Bahrain. So with all this important information, is the increase related to vaccines or because of the vaccines? Let's be true to ourselves. The increase in the active cases, we know that vaccines, they need a period of time to create antibodies and immunity, and we did not even reach the 50%. Unfortunately, some people, those who took the vaccines, they took it in a negative way. So they did not comply with the measures. So as long as we double the vaccines, unfortunately, some of those who took the vaccines, they did not comply with the measures. That's why it caused an increase in the active cases. And as for the efficacy, but taking into consideration that the vaccinated should comply with the measures. Well, the rate for those who completed the vaccination period, whether Sinopharm, Pfizer, or Covishield, would between 1 to 2% of those who were among the active cases. So you see, this is very positive. Third, why do we need booster shots? Well, simply because for 2 important reasons. First, to increase the immunity, and also in line with these variants because of the spread among humans. So booster shots will be the means to safeguard people. And Bahrain, among other countries, announced the booster shots, and you will also hear other announcements soon. 4, were we really in a hurry to announce the vaccination for children? And do we have enough studies for that? And do the children really need vaccines? Well, everyone noticed recently, and we have said it many times, kids and children are our priority. So we have seen an increase of these active cases among children, and children usually are the main reason to spread the virus. But at the same time, we noticed a number of children, even according to studies in America, this could cause them health issues because of COVID-19. Are we going to wait to see the complications, to see the, to double check about this efficiency? Well, when we think about it, we have to say no, especially the American Organization for Food, when it announced that the vaccines were safe for children, the Kingdom of Bahrain took the initiative to review the studies, and it was approved by a specialized committee. 5. Why not responding quickly to the calls of 444 for the delay of ambulance services? Let me say, the team of 444 are doing their best. Unfortunately, those calls received by 444 are general questions, and they can simply get the answers by going back to the Be Aware app. And so if they can simply go to the website or the Be Aware app instead of calling 444. So the many questions received by 444 are related to issues on Be Aware app, which again, somebody can fix it by going to a family member or going to social media. So 444, they have a job to receive important inquiries, which I hope everyone, citizens and residents, simply go to electronic website and platforms, and you're going to get all your answers. 6. Why not Bahrain will take the same implementation of reducing the PCR test and therefore will reduce the active cases? We do not have a false picture. We repeated many times. These numbers are souls and human beings, so we are continuously conducting these PCR tests to identify the tests and reduce those active cases. We don't care about the false picture. Number 7, what is the reason behind the increase of death rates in Bahrain? There are 3 reasons which I hope everyone should listen to. The more you have the medium and critical cases, it means that they're going into ICU. And we've seen globally those active cases going into ICU. Unfortunately, there were issues they're facing. They don't have any problem with the protocol. The protocol in Bahrain is approved, and it is in parallel with the international protocols. We are in contact with different scientific entities. All of them, they proved that the protocol treatment here is among the best protocols used, and the recovery is over 96%. Unfortunately, the second reason, the active cases, they delay their going into hospitals and they do not expose their symptoms. That's why when they come to emergency, they come at a later stage, and at that time it would be difficult to provide them with the best treatment. And the last reason, having the variants, whether from Bahrain or outside Bahrain. So again, we say anybody, whether in Bahrain or outside, if we have spread of the virus, it means we're going to have variants. The more the virus is spread, the more we misuse the vaccines, it would be difficult to provide the treatment to patients. So, the question number 8, is the black fungus or even white fungus is in Bahrain, and can we avoid it? Well, this is a bit spread now. Well, neither the black nor the white fungus are new, and they are there a long time ago. So it is not a disease that related to COVID-19. This is wrong. There is no relation between the black or white fungus with COVID-19. And it is not an infectious disease. And the reason for having it in India has no relation to COVID-19, but because of the misuse of some medications that led to the decrease of immunity in India. And that's why we have best protocol for treatment. And the black fungus is there a long time ago, and it is on the dust, it is among people who have normal immunity. So the more we have less immunity, then the problem will be with the black fungus. And we have not yet identified any case in black fungus in Bahrain because of our medical treatment. To conclude, before I conclude, please, I remind you that Bahrain was and still and will be provide everything necessary for COVID-19 patients, and we are a very good situation thanks to the leadership, to the people in Bahrain. And now I'll leave the floor to Dr. Jamila Salman in order to deliver important messages in this circumstance. Thank you very much, Dr. Manaf Al-Qahtani. Peace be upon you all in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. I welcome you again, and I talk about the third pillar of this press conference, which is about important messages from the National Medical Task Force to all citizens and residents to safeguard their health and safety. These 7 messages are important. They are simple, and every one of us is responsible to implement them, and we are capable of implementing them. And this is going to be our plan to get out of this virus successfully in a very short period of time to the safe and normal life. Well, we address you today as individuals. We are part of you. Your concerns is our concerns. Your goal is our goal. We shall transfer all information to you in a transparent manner. So we are always transparent, and this is going to push all the efforts forward in order to reach the time where the cases will be really low and to safeguard all the health of everyone. The first message, we reiterate the need to seek the medical information only from the National Medical Task Force and to rely only on Team Bahrain and to avoid the spread of false allegations which could cause fear and worries. So yes, you have to be careful, but being in panic and having worries is not necessary at this stage. Message number 2, we have to continue taking vaccines. That the rate we reached in Bahrain is very high, and Bahrain is among the top countries that reached this in terms per capita. But we still need a more rate in order to create herd immunity, because studies have proven locally that these vaccines in Bahrain are efficient and safe in reducing the active cases and protection, and also when getting the vaccine, the COVID-19, the symptoms will be less. Message number 3, everyone is invited to register for the booster shot for those who meet the qualifications and requirements. This is going to enhance the immunity. Message number 4. After the studies which proved the efficiency and safety of Pfizer for children, and it was approved by Bahrain, so we call upon all the guardians to register their children aged 12 to 17 in order to take the vaccine, in order to protect their health and safety. And we mentioned before that this is very important. Those 12 to 17 children, they are really constitute a big section of society, and they are within family and schools. Message number 5. We call upon everyone, and we repeated that many times, to comply with all the precautionary measures and guidelines, among them the social distancing, to refrain from gatherings, family gatherings or private gatherings, which would easily cause the spread of the virus and would cause the increase of active cases, and limit them to the one single family. Message number 6, and it is very, very important. We implement the social distancing and we don't have family gatherings, but at the same time, even within the same family household, if we have any elderly or those with chronic diseases, perhaps they got the infection, or they, God forbid, this could lead them to going to ICU. So that's why let's be careful from the beginning, and especially in dealing with them, because we might go back, we might go out to work, and then we come back to them. So we have to be careful in dealing with them. Message number 7, which is the last one, we reiterate to implement the very simple measures, and we got used to them. They are part of our life, which is like washing hands with soap and sanitizing them, wearing masks in a very appropriate manner, and to implement social distancing and take the vaccines. We need a higher number of vaccinated people and implement these guidelines in order to combat this virus and go to a different stage. To conclude, Bahrain is our responsibility, all of us, everyone. We all should implement these precautionary measures and the decisions in order to protect the health and safety of everyone, citizens and residents alike. And this hopefully is going to be a very short period of time until we go back to our normal life. Thank you. Thank you, the speakers, for your briefs. Now let's have the questions from the journalists and reporters who are joining us remotely. Question number 1 from Mahmoud Rafiqi, 24/7 News, to Dr. Walid Al-Mana. What are the elements and reasons for the increase in the active cases and this maximum death rates? And are there going to be any steps to reduce the active cases, taking into consideration the majority of people are not really implementing the guidelines? Thank you for the question. I think it has 3 main points. First, what are the reasons for the increase? I think in our press conferences, we usually say that the increase, and we explain that, is because of the non-compliance with the guidelines and the gatherings, family gatherings, friends gatherings, and there are other elements could double the number of the active cases. Maybe the discovery of some variants, but in Bahrain we fully believe that over 70% of these active cases because they are not implementing the guidelines and take into consideration the protection guidelines. Well, death rate is really important. Maybe Dr. Manaf pointed out this. Maybe people noticed like the death rate is increasing, but just for your information, the death case rate is still among the lower rates internationally. If we're talking about like 0.35, this is really low. So this is still a very low rate. It is, let's say it did not increase. So we have, the concept of relativity. So if we have like 25,000 active cases, but the death rate is low. So I'm not going to say this is like it is relative, but it is over the usual. And based on that, we confirm again that we are comprehensively conducting the PCR tests. Even those going into ICU, we have the number increased for active cases, and the cases will increase. And this is like an excellent indication, because with the precautionary, with the identification of the active cases, the PCR test, we managed to reach the active cases before going into critical cases, before going into having complications. So what we're talking about is the same, maybe a bit of difference compared to a society. If the society has like 1,000, it will have less death rates compared to a society with 20,000 active cases. So by identifying these cases, by conducting more PCR tests, we're going to save more lives. Well, the procedures, are we going to have more procedures? Well, every time in the press conferences, there are some updated measures, and we review the R0, we review the capacity, and then based on that, we make the decisions. So, for example, this press conference, we had like exceptional decisions after the review of the steering committee, and we updated you. As you can remember, from the beginning of the pandemic, we started with them, and we know that these measures taken today are already been taken, and they're successful, and they, thank God, reduced the active cases at that time. So, but still, the role of individuals in our society has the main reason to implement them and reduce the active cases. Thank you, Doctor. Question to Ms. Iman Ad-Dosari from Bahrain News Agency. Are you going to continuously conduct the inspection campaigns to ensure that everyone is implementing these guidelines? Yes, the answer is yes. We're going to further conduct the inspection campaigns to ensure that we have the violators identified and that everyone is implementing the guidelines through our teams concerned, the collaboration between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Commerce. And also, question to Dr. Manaf Al-Qahtani from Bana: is the vaccination for children is a policy that will contribute to reach the herd immunity quickly? Well, thank you for the question. I could answer the question personally as a father. Yes, it is going to contribute to reach the herd immunity quickly, because we don't have more worth and more value more than our kids. And we have the active cases now was really disturbing for us, whether in Bahrain or outside Bahrain. So when we think about it, we can't really wish to have kids at risk, and we do not wish to have children going into treatment centers. So we wanted to have this decision to allow children to have the vaccine as soon as possible, because me as a father, my job is to protect my children. So I took the initiative myself to register my kids, because I believe first that this is the way to protect them, and I'm not going to leave myself, being worried about this idea of they will be at risk. This virus does not differentiate between ages, or so I looked at it, I trusted the studies, and I trust God, and I have the determination that this is going to be the way to protect this children group, and also not just to achieve the herd immunity, but to protect this category of children. So if I have the proofs of studies, why do I listen to those who don't have the proofs? Question to Dr. Jamila Salman from Tamam Busafi from Al-Ayyam newspaper. Is it true that some death rates were because of having complications after they received first or second dose and they didn't know that they were infected? So that's why people should maybe take the test before taking the vaccines. Thank you for the question. I think we had the question many times. Yes, this is one of the questions that is common. Taking the vaccine while having an infection will not cause complications, because if we look at it scientifically, of those having the virus being in the body, it will enhance the immunity, and the vaccine will also enhance the immunity, so it's not going to cause complications. Scientifically, if somebody, after getting the infection, after finishing the 10 days or 14 days, they can take the vaccine. But internationally, with the recommendations, we preferred to have it after 6 months, because after getting the infection, they will still have the immunity within their body. But if they got infected and they still have the vaccines, it happens even for the previous vaccines, not related to COVID-19. We ask those who, before taking the vaccine, do they have fever? Do they have any signs? Because just to make sure they don't have any side effects. And that's just to postpone this side effects, but no, it does not cause complications. I think now we conclude the question and answer sections. Thank you very much, the speakers, for your briefs, and also for the journalists and reporters, and for you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening and watching. I have a message. Yeah, we have a message. I have an important message from the depth of my heart. Well, at this intensity, I say, let's not be sad. You have the right to be proud of yourself. If you commit to your responsibility, you have to be proud of your leadership, of that have made your health a priority. You have to be proud of your Team Bahrain. We're working with you in a very transparent manner, and the decisions are based on accurate information and based on plans. May God protect Bahrain citizens and residents, and to overcome this challenge. And we wish everyone well and health. Thank you, doctor. And just to remind you that the decisions are effective starting from tomorrow, Thursday, at 12 o'clock p.m. until Thursday, 10th of June, 12 midnight. So starting from tomorrow after midnight, or starting from midnight, we now conclude the press conference. Thank you very much. Please follow all the precautionary measures and guidelines to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and combat it. Thank you very much.